Hello, I'm Hans Zimmer, and today we'll be breaking down how we created the score for Dune Part 2. I remember finishing Part 1 and saying to Denis, hang on, we're only on page 156 of roughly 600 pages. And I just carried on writing. And there came a phone call from Denis going, listen, the movie has been out for 6 months. You can stop writing now. And I was going, no. I really think we're going to get to make Part 2 because we weren't greenlit at that point in time. So I just carried on writing, and then I wrote a theme which I really loved. And there's a voice in the first movie which is very much the sort of the centerpiece that holds everything together, sung by a woman called Laura Kotler, who's just a phenomenal artist. A friend of mine saw her on YouTube and went, this is an extraordinary voice. She knows the limits of what a voice can do, and she is right at the limit of where she will never ever be able to sing again. So she dares to go to that place. A man called Chaz Smith, who lives in Northern California, he's a pedal steel guitarist, but he's a welder as well, and he doesn't just weld, like bridges and buildings. But what he's really interested in is making strange musical instruments. And he seems to have some unholy alliance, which I've never quite figured out, with the Boeing Corporation, who give him scrap metal and things. And he explains the metal to me, and it has names that I've never heard of and can't repeat. And part of his whole ethos is that everything has to be made out of scrap. And so these things which you can bow or play or rub or kick or hit with hammers, or they can be the most gentle sounds, or it's truly the sound of the monster under the earth. Very Dune-like. The movie tells you what it wants and what it rejects. You have to listen. And one of the things great musicians do is not how well they play, it's how well they listen to each other. I usually spend a lot of time looking at color charts or sitting with the DP or just looking at the way things are graded from the previous movie or where we're going now, what the costumes are. Chris Nolan and Denis, we have this process whereby I don't really read the script. I ask them to tell me the story because then I know what's in their head. And then straight away it's off to the designs and the DP and what's the color spectrum going to be like. Because I have this sort of, and it's hard to describe. Look, all I can tell you is there's a few frames in The Lion King, the original Lion King, and I only had a black and white drawing, and the colors and what the music is doing is completely wrong, and it clashes, and nobody seems to understand that other than me. But for me, it's fingers down a chalkboard. So yes, I'm insane, I admit it. Let's have a quick look at this sequence here, which is The Quiet Between the Storms. And I see here it's still labeled as Hans Zimmer Love Theme, which might give you a hint. I was trying to create the sound of sand and just atmospheres, nothing, just this stillness, this wind going across the desert. And the tune really comes from the original bagpipe tune, which used to be fast. And then at one point, Loire and I sat down and said, what happens if we perform this tune as very slowly? And then, of course, somehow, in the way we work, it's like somehow it ended up with Pedro saying it would be good on the duduk, but of course it cannot be played on an ancient instrument because it doesn't have all the notes. So, we went to Home Depot and had to modify his instrument. Home Depot is where, they have pipes. We can extend the length of a flute. We can go. Home Depot is our secret instrument building site. So Home Depot has been very important in creating the score for Dune. It really has. So if I just play you this by itself, you'll hear, the beauty of the thing about Pedro is there's a heart, there's a soul, there's a loneliness, there's a longing in his performance, which is so extraordinary. I mean, if I put the barest minimum of things around him, it's just this little high note above him. And to me, it felt like the endless gaze across this planet. And it felt incredibly intimate. So when Paul and Chani are sitting there talking to each other, and the way they mixed it, the way Denis mixed it as well in the film is like the whole atmosphere shifts, and it just becomes this incredibly intimate moment between these two characters.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
There is a sort of a gentle chorus. And it's just how he plays those first notes here. There's such longing. I mean, there's real poetry, and you just hear Tina very slightly behind on her electric cello. You know something? I've done a lot of movies, and I love doing movies, and I love writing music, and you know why? Because I still haven't written the thing that I think is really the most beautiful love theme. I'm still learning. I'm still searching, I'm still investigating, I'm still exploring, I'm still experimenting. You know, the advantage I have is that I have a partner in Denis Villeneuve who is sort of on the same search. We never butted heads over anything. Sometimes the quality of a wine, maybe. One of the things which is interesting about the way Denis built Dune was the first movie really is an introduction. It introduces the characters, introduces where the plot is probably heading. The second movie actually gives you the grit, gives you the action, gives you the Sturm und Drang, as we would say in my home country. And this is Harvester Attack, and because it says attack, you might not think it's a love theme. We were going to be completely fearless. We were going to go and embrace dissonance. We were going to embrace a complete punk. Oh God, here I am giving it away. Yes, there was a period in my life where I wasn't wearing a nice jacket and I was a bit more, was in a punk band. And some of that stuff came back. And you know, that mentality, when you want to go and do an action scene, comes in very handy. What's appropriate for the way I think we worked on Dune is that, you know, the female power is a really important story component. And certainly my three percussionists are female. And they hit things harder than most guys ever hit things. I used to work with Sheila E. as well, who was Princess drummer. So it just seemed appropriate to have my wonderful female percussionist come and give this a bit of energy and a bit of just rage, which is what it needed. Richard King, our sound designer, who is, I'm just going to say it, who's the god of sound designers for me. I mean, we've done so many movies together. We've done all the Christopher Nolan movies together. There's a great amount of inventiveness that is going on in what he does sonically, and there's an enormous amount of bandwidth he uses up. You know, and of course, you know, when you see a huge harvester, this huge machine, you know, leave some room for Richard, you know, and at the same time he is a gentleman and he will leave some room for me. So there's this constant sense of trading off and collaborating.
I know you said when you finished the first Dune score, you kind of were still in the world of Dune, still composing. Are you still dreaming in Dune?
Second day of shooting, Denis puts Dune Messiah on my desk, doesn't say a word. I know where we're going.